Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, adopting a child is a complex and life-changing process. It is both a stressful and joyful time for many parents. But what about all the legal and constitutional checks and balances? Well, let's find out more from Johannesburg Child Welfare Adoption Supervisor Anna Nala. Anna, good morning and thank you very much for your time. This Wednesday was in fact World Adoption Day, and among others, this period serves as a moment to reflect on how far the country has come in putting in place legislation that protects children, but also legislation that makes the process for adopting less cumbersome. Can you just take us through the process as it stands today, as well as its challenges?
Good morning, Mfunda, and good morning to the viewers. Thank you very much for having me. Indeed, then the day we reflect, you go back, you look at how the processes have changed. Over the years, there's been so much that has changed in the adoption process. Most of it is in protection of children and in protecting parents. There's been a lot of things that has happened. Child trafficking is one of the reasons why there's so much red tape that has been put in place just to protect children. And our clients will say that there's so many children who are abandoned, who are in the centers. Why are they not available for adoption? But the issue is the process that is involved in declaring those children available for adoption. For example, over the years, it has become difficult to declare the child adoptable. To legally free them, if I may use the term, legally free them to be adopted. Children, there's certain things that needs to happen. When the child is abandoned, we open the Children's Court Inquiry. The Children's Court Inquiry will give us a right to publish the details of the child so that we can try and find the parents of the child. Then we have to do the investigations. Now, over the years, you could do certain things concurrently. You could publish the details of the child, apply for a birth certificate, and because the child is abandoned, the South African police has to open a case of abandonment and investigate, because abandonment, unfortunately, in South Africa is a criminal offense, and they have to provide a police report saying they've investigated and they haven't been able to trace the parents. So currently, before you could do all those things concurrently, but currently you have to publish the details of the child. And bear in mind, once the publication is out, it has to run 90 days before you can do anything. You have to wait for the police to investigate and issue the police report and say they were able to trace the mother, whether the case was closed or undetected. There's several terms that are used. Only then you can go back to court and request the court to issue a Section 46, where you take that and you go to the Department of Home Affairs and then apply for a birth certificate, depending on how old the child is. It is another process also, because you have to submit the application. When the child is older, you wait for the Home Affairs to issue a date. Then the social worker has to go to Department of Home Affairs and be interviewed. And only then the decision will be made whether they will issue a birth certificate or they will not. So that has prolonged the process of declaring the child adoptable, and as a result, it has a great impact on children. Children stay in institution for a longer period, and it has psychological effect. It has developmental effects. Remember, when children are there, they do not receive proper stimulation, like a child who has a one-on-one parent, and they then have developmental delays and a whole lot of things in the process.
But I suppose it now explains. Apologies for interjecting,
Yes.
but I suppose it now explains, because many were saying the number of orphan kids remains far too great in comparison to those being adopted each year. But if you're taking us through this process, we then understand that it really is a very rigorous process in an effort to protect the children. But if we look at the would-be parents, the ones that want to adopt, we understand that as part of the criteria, the first is for them to be a fit and proper individual or person.
Yes.
What exactly do we mean when we talk of a fit and proper individual?
When we say a fit and proper parent, we go through different criteria and to declare them fit and proper. Firstly, we look at the medical background of a client, whether they are medically fit to can adopt a child, and not that as the purpose also is for medicals is where we're looking at the fact that parents will be, for example, if you are diabetic, if you place the child with you, we know that you are adhering to a treatment. Therefore, you'll be able to care for a child because your condition is stable. We also do psychological assessment, basically just to see how the people think, whether their mental condition. We also do marital assessment, just to see the communication, how parents communicate. Do they need support in enhancing their situation before we can place? We all know that infertility brings a lot of issues into the relationships. So we want to iron out all those issues before we place the child in their care. And we also look at the home circumstances. Home circumstances, we only basically look at the fact that the child is going to be safe in that environment. Whether the space is big enough for a child. If it's a one room, is it big enough? Does it have windows? Does it have electricity? Does it have water? Often our parents laugh that we say, do you have electricity? Do you have water? And those are the basic things that we look for. And we also require parents to do police clearance to check if they have criminal records. There's a catch-22 situations in terms of criminal record, because the clients say, because we look at the fact that if you have issues, you had cases like assault, or so therefore it will be difficult for us to place a child in your care. And we also request a Form 30. Department of Social Development National Office has a register where if you've had any issues with the child, your name will be placed in Part B of the register. So we go through that register and check if your name is there. Then you can be declared fit and proper in terms of the act of the Children's Act.
Okay, and just for clarity, there is no perhaps prejudice on those that are not necessarily the most financially well off. Even if you're a fairly decent family but not necessarily rich, you would get the opportunity to adopt. It is not necessarily the criteria that you have to be doing very well.
No. The Act is very allowed in that. We look at South Africa has a cap for what do you call it, basic wage. So as long as you have income, you do have circumstances where people who are self-employed, as long as they can prove that there's some sort of income, they will not be prejudiced.
And then what has been the experience, though, of the would-be parents at Home Affairs? Because we're actually supposed to speak to the Democratic Alliance soon. They'd actually intervened in several matters. We know that they've submitted 121 adoption orders to the department. They did this on Wednesday. So what has been the experience with the would-be parents insofar as Home Affairs is concerned and them fast-tracking the registration?
It has been a difficult one. A lot of parents are experiencing major issues. The time it takes for Department of of Home Affairs to register adoptions. Some it has been between 9 months and over a year, and it is very sad because that has a great impact on a child. Because some medical aid will not include a child once if although the child's details had not been amended in a birth certificate. And some policies will not. So it has an impact on rights of children. Rights of children to have access to certain things, especially parents also. There are things that they are unable to do for their children.
Or even travel, one would assume it becomes difficult. And even for the inter-country
once you don't have that birth certificate, yes. Once you don't have the unabridged birth certificate, even in South Africa, our parents are unable to travel overseas. So if you are South African, you want to go overseas, once you don't have those documents, you are unable to travel with your child. And it's unfair because certain parents travel and want to travel with children, but they can't. They have to leave their children behind because of such required documents.
So just in closing, how long a period does it take for parents listening, or would-be parents rather, that want to adopt? How long a period does it take to finalize the adoption process and have the child in your home?
That is the
Roughly.
question we are being asked every day. It is difficult to say because each case it's different. It has its own merits. What will be my process and your process will not be the same because I might experience medical issues. I might experience something along the way, and you might not have anything, and your process is smooth. Some people have been declared fit and proper within a period of months, 4 months. Some has taken longer due to the fact that each family, the circumstances are different, so it will be difficult, and availability also. And finances also, because there's medical, there's psychological assessment. So all those things determine whether the family the time frame for the process for the family.
But all things equal, would it roughly be a year that people would perhaps look at? Just all things
No,
equal, if there are not a lot of problems.
No, it's different from each individual. I must say, remember, even if we are both, everything is equal. Maybe your availability from work, because they have to avail themselves during the week, 8 to 4 office hours. And our workplaces are not the same. So there's no such where we can
Anna?
say cases would be equal.
No, okay, but I tried. Thank you very much, though, for your time this morning. That's Johannesburg Child Welfare Adoption Supervisor, Anna Nala.